Let's see here. This is gonna work. I haven't done one of these in a long time. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, it's been a while since I did one of these, so I don't know how this is gonna work out. Alright. Looks like everything is good, but for some reason my lens over here is just a little screwed up. So, I mean, it looks like everything is cool here. Okay. Forgive me for the wonky angle and me being up on my feet over here. Usually, you know, in the past when I used to make streams like this, you know, I'd always be a little bit more comfortable. But I figure let me just come out and, you know, just say my piece and, you know, just speak my mind like I always do. So, first off, to all my old friends, what's going on, guys? I mean, you know, not much to say at that point, you know, hoping everybody's okay, and to all my new friends that are out there who, hopefully one of these days, if God, you know, if it's meant to be, hopefully we cross paths one day. You know, everybody's down at Star Wars Celebration right now, having a good time, but obviously, you know, being retired from the Legion and all the drama that's been going on with myself, unfortunately, you know, that's not happening. I guess I'm going to lay all of this out because this has come up in the past couple of days, and I want to explain something to pretty much everyone who, you know, who may not know me. For a very long time, I've used Facebook as a medium to put my life experiences out there. Not putting my life out there, but my life experiences, for good reason, because many people on my Facebook page, and I've kind of made it like a mission, where people like myself, for example, who many of you may or may not know, I volunteered at the Trade Center, World Trade Center in 2001. And this is a subject I haven't discussed in a very long time by choice. And it's because of that I found solace in discussing certain things, because at the risk of sounding arrogant in any which way, shape, or form, people like our veterans, our police officers, and especially to those who were downtown in 2001, to this day, we are living history. I'm not being arrogant and giving myself a pat on the back, but we are living history. And thanks to technology, many of us, and I read it on my Facebook page all the time on my personal feed, those of us who are downtown like myself openly share their experiences, their life experiences, their hardships, their pain, their happiness, and they put it out there for good reason. And there is a reason and a logic behind all of that, especially the stuff that I post. I know recently it's been a little deep, what I've been posting, but deep down many of us feel as if we are living history. And our life experiences as to how that one event in 2001 changed our lives, to us, and at least to me, has always been very important. The aftermath of what happened. How did our lives change? How did our personalities change? How does the view of the world that we have changed? How did it all unravel and fall apart, or maybe get better? Who knows? With each individual, everyone has handled it differently. In my case, it's always been cautious optimism with a little bit of angst and cynicism. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but I've always been a mixed bag anyway to begin with, and a bit unpredictable for a very long time. But I have really tried to take a grasp on things, especially now where my skin has been made to be thicker. But as I said, many of us have chosen to operate under the guise that we are living history. And I tried to take what I seen down there and turn it into a positive. That's why many of you seen me out there with all the Star Wars stuff, trying to, do charity work and visit hospitals and try to be the best daddy I could possibly be, and, do fundraisers and all of that sort of thing, and try to be a better human being. And that was always my goal, to improve myself and to give back, because when you see that kind of evil, the world becomes skewed. Your view of the world becomes skewed. Whether it's even your family or your friends, sometimes you have to second guess your own friends, and that's kind of sad when it has to be like that. But unfortunately, when you see an event so bad like what I've seen downtown in 2001, you do develop sort of a hatred for humanity, I guess is the only way you can say it. But surrounded by so many loving, caring, interesting, fun-loving people who are into the same stuff that I am, you find a solace in that. But in the back of my mind, I still feel like we are living history. And we made a difference, and we're not going to have our stories not be told to this day. When it came to, things like Vietnam and Korea, when our soldiers came back, our citizens would boo and shun our people. When they come right off the plane after going out there and, having to defend and stick up for our Constitution and our rights and freedoms, and you have all these things going on, and they come back here and they're called baby killers, and, you'll hear these stories from older people. Can you imagine what that feels like? And someone like myself, like I read every day on my Facebook, many of us that were down there have made a choice to put our life experiences out there so that our stories are told to everyone. Those who know me personally, I'm a completely different guy. Right now I'm being stern and serious, but, I've always been a fun-loving guy and always did my thing and stuff like that. But, it's about the aftermath and the story behind it as to how we were each affected by that. And that has what has led me to this point today. Deep down inside, I've always had a little bit of anger at the world. That's a given. Most of my personal friends will know I've always had like a little bit of a negative view of the world sometimes. But then meeting almost 3/4 of you people, my God, I've met some of the most beautiful people in the world, and then you stop feeling that way after a while. But there's just certain kinds of anger that just would not go away or subside. And it's very difficult to deal with them. I think many of us feel like that in the community to this day. I read it all the time on my feed. Your health has changed, it's out of your control, and you have to constantly be treated like a guinea pig with doctors. And fortunately for me, I'm able to be up on my own 2 feet, and I don't have to go through all of that stuff, being pumped full of medicine and have to walk around with a cane and a wheelchair and back braces and this brace and that brace. I've been spared that, thank God. But there are many people out there that I know personally, even one of my friends who's probably watching this right now, I don't see his name popping up there, but he called me a couple days ago and he put it up on his Facebook page himself, and now he thinks he's probably got cancer. It's a very dog-eat-dog world for us sometimes. A lot of the issues I have really dealt with quite well. But there are other things, unfortunately, that, it's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And like I said, I'm one of the fortunate ones that came out of it, that I can stand up and take care of myself. But what I never, ever thought would ever happen in my life, and this goes beyond even the subject I was just talking about, was the fact that human nature can be truly spiteful and evil in its own way. And you can wear your heart on your sleeve all you want, you could do all the charity work you want, you could be a good friend if you want, you could do all of that kind of stuff, but when the chips are down and something goes wrong, that is when you see who's truly on your side and who is not. Now, every one of you watching this I'm sure has been following me because I have made a choice to be very open for good reason, because there are people on my page that have severe depression, PTSD. They're afraid to leave their house. They're suicidal. They're this and they're that. And it's nice to know that there could be somebody out there who understands. And I'm one of those people because I have friends like that myself, and I have my issues too. But I've never really turned my back on anyone or anybody for any reason. And that's why I choose to be so open. Because somebody out there, something I say or something I do resonates with a person, and they message me and they say, my God, you know what, I felt like that. I thought like that. I was going to do that, or I was, thinking about this, and you said something like, my God, and, I finally, ran into somebody like you who can relate to me, and that's what people need. I think. We all need each other. But unfortunately, when the chips are down and things come full circle, when you make a mistake, I mean, if you make a god-awful mistake, my God, I'm not saying like murder, I'm not going into the realm of murder or kidnapping or things or theft or anything like that, but when you make a personal mistake in your personal life, depending on how bad that mistake is, you should not have to be crucified to a point where people are actually trying to destroy everything that you are. And that has been that's what's been happening to me over these past few months. My posts lately have become very personal. You went from, doing all that cool Star Wars stuff, and, I got away from the political rants. I mean, I still put memes and stuff, but it got really, really personal for good reason. And many of you who are out there, you have your issues, and I've taken the time to chat with you and talk and stuff like that. But for me, it's become, I can't even explain it to you. It's very difficult to talk about this because there's a reason why I'm censoring myself and holding back. It's more complicated than I want to share, and for good reason. I will say it's family oriented. Why I'm making this stream. A lot of you have been concerned about my well-being, and I thank you for that so much, to every single one of you out there. The phone calls, the messages, messaging my mother and my parents and everybody networking on my behalf. You don't know what that means to me, to see that people actually do care. Even if I don't see you face to face and you're across the country and you're like, man, here's this guy, and we're all worried about him. What's going on? I really do deeply appreciate that. I got to see the most vicious part of human nature, I think, that's out there. And I'm not talking about the murderous kind. I'm not talking about, the drug dealing kind or anything like that. I'm talking about spite. Real spite. I've never experienced spite before. Over the past 8 or 9 months, I'm not going to be here and stand here in front of all you guys on this camera and pretend I have been an angel. No, I'm like any other man out there. If I stay out too late, or I eat too much, or drink too much, or do all of this, we all make stupid mistakes. But the problem is that when you actually make a choice to improve yourself and to do the right thing for yourself and try to get your act together, and some people are late bloomers. I'm a late bloomer. What am I going to say? I'm going to be 40 years old this coming Monday. I'm a late bloomer. I always was. These days I've been trying to walk the straight and narrow path, but it's always taken me time to get adjusted to things and change things around. But I actually, over the past several months, have really made a conscious effort to really get it together and really, improve myself as a man and be a man and do the right thing and be a good family man and a good partner and all of that. But for some people, unfortunately, it seems vengeance and spite are the only way they can deal with certain things, and it's not cool. And I never dealt with this sort of thing before. If you can imagine what it's like to go up against 4 separate individuals who just have this idea in your head about who you are, you become the boy that cried wolf. Except this time I had witnesses that seen it firsthand. Things have become very difficult for me lately. This goes beyond 9/11. This goes beyond, anything like that. It's just this is just something I have never dealt with before. And I've read a lot of the messages, and many of you have said, man, if it is what I think it is, I went through it myself and I understand it. And I'm one of them guys. Like I said, I've always got out there and try to do the right thing. But what's been going on is just anything beyond what I've ever experienced before, and it is very difficult to talk about. And I forgive me for tap dancing around it. There's a good reason why I have to tap dance around certain subjects, because there's things that are involved in this conversation I'm having with all of you. I will say I'm fine to answer all of your questions. I'm going to try to answer all of your questions. Basically, that's what this video is, to answer questions as much as I can. Because a lot of you guys have treated me like, I'm no superstar or nothing like that, man, but you guys have really given me a chance to, like, speak my mind. And if I do, touch a subject that, some of you can relate to, and it opens up a dialogue and things like that, I appreciate that, because I'm just as human as the rest of you guys out there, man. It means a lot. And I am no star in my own right, man, but I try to be as human and treat everybody as humanly as possible. I give it my best. But to answer all of your questions, I'm going to try to sum it all up as quickly as possible. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm still coming to terms with certain things that have transpired over the past few months, in particular, especially this past week. See, some of the brothers, Chris Vito Hillier, another brother from the World Trade Center site. I read his post. Most of you guys probably were down there, if not all of you, or have somebody that knows or pay attention to the news. Like I said, we are living history, which is why I'm so open with my stuff, because it touches a nerve with some people, and some people can relate to what I'm going through. And you just feel like this bond that's out there, except I'm more vocal about it, and I have no shame in that. And if something I say can help out another person, then that's what I do. That's why I do these things and post personal things like I do. Anyway, I'm fine. Everything's okay. Without going into too much detail, I've had to make some very difficult choices over the past few days. Certain things have happened to me that should not have happened, out of blatant vengeance and spite. Like I said, I'm trying to censor myself, because there's certain things that I cannot discuss for good reason, but I've had to deal with one of the worst sides of human nature, man, and that's just vengeance and spite and selfishness in such a way that I was not expecting to encounter this sort of thing, where, like, when people really want to go after you, man, they really want to go after you, and really, it's bad enough that you're already sinking down in a quicksand, but when you try to reach up and you grab that stick that can save your life, and they go and they cut the stick off, then they put their foot on your forehead and push you under the quicksand. I mean, I've never experienced anything like what I've been experiencing. And that's kind of like what I've been dealing with. I took it upon myself to do what was right, because I already knew what was coming down the road. I took it upon myself to do what was right and get myself on the straight and narrow, and it was working for a while. And then by December of last year, everything I thought was going to be cool, and I got myself back into the same, got myself back into the mix again, and then that's when, the judging started, and certain people out there decided to play God with my life. And at every instance and every turn, I was essentially treated like a criminal. And I've never dealt... Sorry about that. I got a notice on my phone. My battery's dying, so I got to make this quick. I've never been treated like the way I've been treated. Every person, like I said, makes mistakes. But if the person makes a conscious effort to really, really, like, rectify those mistakes, you don't beat up on that person. You just don't. If a person's sinking in a quicksand, don't push the person into the quicksand with your foot. If the person's trying to get themselves out, you don't push them into it. And that's what's been happening. It's been like a relentless jackhammer. So I'm not going to stand here on this stream and say, oh yeah, I'm fine. No, I'm a bit emotionally compromised. I'm not going to deny that. But this particular situation has become so brutal, so personal, and so rough that I was not expecting things to end up like the way they have. Um, all I know is that everyone who has come to my defense, my aid, and for no short of terms, my rescue, have witnessed what I have achieved so far. But there are just some people that just will not let certain things go. They will not let it go. And to me, I've never encountered anything like that. And that's why all of these posts that all of you have been seeing have become so personal. And I do apologize to quite a few of you who do get worried. I mean, the messages that came in even to my parents through my Facebook page, to her and my sister and everybody, my God, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, you know. But, you know, like I said, those days of me getting that personal on Facebook are slowly winding down. Especially today, I got a whole bunch of messages I finally started reading through again today, and it's going to get to a point where that mission that I had, where I can share my life experiences with those who have similar life experiences, who are going through some really hardcore stuff like depression and anxiety, you know, whether you're in the first responders community, you know, the 9/11 community and stuff like that, and I have soldiers and police officers and all kinds of people from all across the spectrum. It became, you know, it was cool to, you know, do streams like this to, you know, tell people, hey man, I feel the same way you do, I'm thinking the same way you are, I felt this way, and you're not alone in the world. But it's just with this particular situation, which I still, like I said, cannot go too deeply into the details of, that is going to have to come to an end as of today. And I wish it wasn't like that, but it has to be, because quite frankly, I'm still in shock. I mean, but, you know, I am okay. I'm here. I'm doing the stream. I figure let me show my face, especially to all of you guys. I mean, I still haven't even gone through all, oh my God, there must be about 30 or 40 Messenger messages. I don't have Messenger on my phone anymore, by the way. I went through all of them. I tried to go through whatever messages I could, but there's just so many of them, and so many text messages and so many voice messages. This is just like a big hello, here I am. I'm fine. I am a bit beaten and bruised, you know, emotionally and everything, but I am here, and I'm hoping to restart and reboot. As far as the situation, forgive me for tap dancing around the details of it, and it's for good reason. I'm definitely getting a fresh start. Right now, I'm still, you know, when it comes to actually getting out of New York, we're looking more towards Thursday, maybe Friday now, from what my old man and myself were talking about. And then from PA, hopefully, if everything works out, I'll make the move to North Carolina. From the date that I got from the real estate place, it'll be around May 20th, from what it seems. But, you know, too many things have happened in a very short amount of time, and I'm not used to running. I'm not used to, you know, putting the safety harness on and pulling myself out of the fire. I mean, I'm used to fighting. Anybody who knows how I am, even if you Googled in my name, you'll see Occupy Wall Street and you know, quotes. You know, what did I think of Osama bin Laden? Plumbers are getting involved in politics and fighting, and being a part of society and being an active member of our society. And you know, but all of that doesn't matter when it comes to home. And right now, home is no longer New York, unfortunately, because of everything here that's happened. And I will not allow myself to be demonized, criminalized, or vilified in any which way, shape, or form. It's not going to happen. But there are people out there that just they're just relentless. And they have been relentless, and it has made me very insecure now about certain things. You know, unfortunately, I've had to rip the heart off of my sleeve in these past few days, and now there's going to be a brand new Walter who's maybe got a little bit more of a thicker skin, and will have to be a little colder, especially after this. You know, I've dedicated myself to all sorts of charity work and dedicated myself to just being a cool guy. I've had people tell me, my God, you know, like I've said before, you said something that resonated with me, and I felt that way. My God, I wish I could say it like that, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes, the person that does that sort of thing, also has his issues. And I've done everything I can to rectify my own personal issues, but unfortunately there are just forces at work that are out there that just want to, be relentless towards me. Now, I'm not playing the victim here. In the beginning of this stream, I said everybody makes mistakes and everybody does wrong. Everybody makes that one big boo-boo in their life, or two big boo-boos, or whatever it is, and I made some boo-boos. But I did what was required of me by my own choice. Nobody forced me to, do certain things. Nobody forced me to go to places, and, I took the bull by the horns and did what I was supposed to do on my own accord, by myself, with nobody telling me. Problem is that people chose not to notice those things. People out there chose not to look at the work I did and chose to see, a Walter from the past versus the Walter that's here now. People have no right to play God with another person's life. People have no right to take another person's life into their hands and then throw them into the street like yesterday's newspaper, or leave them on most of you people here in New York City, when you ride the subway, when you're done with the newspaper, you leave it on the seat, and then off goes the train, and you couldn't care less. And a lot of that has been happening with me these days in my personal life. So, that explains a lot of the personal issues that I have been posting on Facebook. A lot of you guys in the 9/11 community, my police officer friends and soldier friends and FDNY friends and all that kind of stuff, I will always in my heart share my sympathies with you. You're never alone in all of this, with what you're all going through with your health and, doctors and financial issues and, people hating on you because they don't want to hear your stories and stuff like that. And a lot of you guys know me, man. I've never been shy to keep my mouth shut about certain stuff, man. I would always go out there and pump my fist and rah, 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 but, unfortunately, with this issue, it's taught me to take it back a couple steps. It's forced me to have to step back from that now because, I see that, like I said, a person can really, really do everything in their power to improve upon their life and do things better for themselves for the sake of their children and their families. But when people want to be so spiteful and so vindictive and so childish that there's really not much you can say or do except you become the boy that cried wolf. But that finally came to an end last Wednesday, where I finally had people that witnessed what was going on with me and seen it firsthand and came to my defense and protected me, shielded me from an agitator, a very, very highly aggressive agitator, and helped me to get through the past couple days, which are very difficult. So before anybody thinks that they can judge me negatively about stuff that they might read in local newspapers or police blotters or whatever it is that they want to read and look at, well, what you read in there is not what things are right now. You know what I mean? As far as things are concerned, I still have no criminal record. Donut. Zero. And unfortunately, there are people that have been trying to bring me up on charges for certain things, and those things have been thrown out in the garbage. And yet, my record still remains clean. But there are people out there that just want to push and push and push and push and push. So that's why it's time for me to leave. It's time for me to leave New York. It's time for me to get a fresh start. Because as long as I'm here, I'm going to be miserable. That's just the truth. So, the whole point of this stream was just to say, guys, I'm here. I'm fine. It's been rough. It's been very tough. Unfortunately, this has come with a great personal cost. A lot of you guys have been following up on my Facebook page. I know a lot of you guys in the 9/11 community are always following, a brother. I follow all of your posts, even though I might not respond to them. I read them every day. You guys always know I was always open with my personal story. Our stories should never be forgotten. We are living history. And this is the first time I've actually brought up that subject, the 9/11 subject. But, I am fine. It's going to take a while for me to process everything that has happened so far. I want to thank my former, now past tense, my former neighbors who did come out and witnessed what I've been dealing with firsthand, who protected me, watched over me, shielded me, friends, family, all you guys that are watching this. But there are people that just want to continue to push the buttons and want to destroy me and turn me into a vicious, psychopathic, madman criminal. So no matter what police blotter you may read, the simple truth of the matter is that there are people that have been really trying to destroy me, and I'm not going to allow it to happen. And to this day, even now while I'm doing this, there is zero criminal record whatsoever. And I'm not going to be destroyed by anybody, not by any means, not for any reason. Period. But as long as things are fresh and the way they are, it's time to go bye-bye. And after this stream, don't expect too many more posts of me sharing my life experiences like I have. Behind the scenes on Messenger and text messaging and phone call, yeah, but I'm not going to be as open as I was on Facebook anymore. That stops today after I make this stream. I'm still going to share, certain things, like how my life is going, once I get out there to California or PA, and typical stuff like what most people do, photos, whatnot. But when it comes into the real meat and potatoes of myself, those days are going to end up coming to an end. So there you have it. I'm fine. I'm here. I got all my digits, all my marbles are in place. Well, not my hair. I decided to go down to the skin with my hair, so I needed a change. But, everything is fine. I am fine. My beautiful parents have really been helping me out. All my close friends, I still talk with the neighbors in the old neighborhood. Went out to Juniper Park today with one of them just to shoot the shit and talk, discuss what happened on Wednesday and what has been happening over these past few months. And, it's going to be time to move on. So thank you to all you guys, all of you who did show concern. That's basically it, man. There really ain't much to talk about. I forgive me for having to tap dance around certain details, but there's a good reason why I'm tap dancing around details. That's it. I love potatoes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just had pierogies with sour cream. But they have potatoes in them, and yes, being a Kraut by blood, we love our potatoes. So. If you guys got any questions, now's the time before my phone conks out, because I've got maybe like 3 bars left on this thing, so I'll give it a minute or two here. But I do love potatoes. I don't like McDonald's fries, though. They're not real potatoes. So, I see who's on here anyway. I see Billy. Billy, Mr. Plants, I do appreciate what you did. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say what it is here, but I appreciate what you did. It was actually a blessing in disguise for what it was, because it actually helped me. I'll discuss that with you on a more personal basis, by phone and whatnot. But it did actually help me to have certain things transpire the way they did, because it ended up protecting me in the end in more ways than one than I even thought. But and let me see here, scroll through all these comments here. There's a couple of them. If it wasn't for doing the charity work of trooping. I miss trooping with the 5